Welcome to section number 3 of chapter number 7, Text. In this section, we will be discussing text, and in the next section, text with leaders. Text is a pretty self-explanatory topic. Along with dimensions, text, notes, and leaders are used to describe construction documents. Here we will be discussing how to create text and how to justify and change the way the paragraphs are designed, and then eventually how to add leaders to text notes. So let's talk about how to add some text. Text adds great description to our construction documents. So you see text describing things, adding description to rooms, and a lot of other things. The text tool is located on the Annotate tab of the ribbon, and it's this A right here. The shortcut is TX. When I click on the text tool, let me just describe what a few of these different things are that we see here. We see that if we click on this icon, we just get text without a leader. Then we have 1, 2, 3 different options to have text with a leader next to that. We have a way of justifying where the leader is in relation to text. And then we have a way to justify the text. Is it left, middle, or right justified? When I place text, it's not associated with anything. And I want to make that clear because some things in Revit, when you place them, are associated with other things. Pieces of text are standalone objects. So when I click and I initiate the text command, and I click and I write 1, 2, 3, 4, and I hit close, that piece of text resides by itself. And if I click on it, I can move it, I can rotate it, or I can completely click or press the delete key on my keyboard and I can delete it. You'll notice that when I created that piece of text, I just clicked. And when you click, long strings of text begin to form. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. And I could continue typing and the string of text would get very long. This is a lot different than if I were to initiate the text command, click, whoops, a little close to that, click, hold my mouse button down, and draw a region. By doing that, I've just created a text box. And that text box limits the extent of how far the text will type out before it wraps in paragraph format. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. As you can see here, with a text box, the text started wrapping before it got too long. Now I'm going to hit close and finish that text string. You can see that I can move it, that I can rotate it, and then I also have a little grip here where if I want to extend that text box or shorten it, I'm allowed to do that as well. Okay. Now I'm going to hit escape here, and I'm going to grab this text and I'm going to nudge it up with my arrow keys. Nudge, 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 nudge. I also want to make it very clear that you can move, copy, rotate, and really mirror or use any of the most common modification commands on text that you would use on other items in Revit. Okay, let's talk about other than generating text. Let's move down here just a little bit. Let's talk about how we make text look the way we want to. I'm going to initiate the text command here, and immediately I can choose to justify my text. So you'll notice this is left justified, and when I get my cursor very close to that left border, I get a line forming. I can right justify my text, and if I click and I hit close, then it's right justified. Okay, I'm going to hit escape here. Now you're going to notice that when I click on the text icon here, I get a little bit of a chance to add some justification. And then when I actually get into my text command, let's draw a text box here, I get the text editing dialog box popping up here in my ribbon. So I get a lot of more text editing options once I'm actually typing out text, whether it's in a text box or just a long string of text. So I can indent, I can add listing type things to my text, ABC, 1, 2, 3. I can add bullets. I can change the case. I can change the superscript or subscript, and I can give it a bold, italic, or underline. So I do start to have a lot of functionality within my my text generation that I have in any word processing type of program. So here I could type 1, enter, 2, enter, 3, enter, 4, enter. I could just type and that text would automatically wrap, but I'm just forcing an enter in there so I get a nice list. I can come in here and I can select these pieces of text just like I would in any word processing software. I can click on bullets. I can click on lists here, ABCs, small ABCs. I can bold, I can italicize, and I can underline. So there's a lot of different justification and aesthetic type things that we can change about our text. And when I'm finished, I can click on close, or I can click in space, hit escape, and my text is finished. Okay. So we know how to place text, and it's really very simple. Again, I can move this, I can rotate it, I can double click on it, click, very fast. I can re-enter the text box, and I can change the way things look even after I've already generated the text. Okay. But again, just like dimensions and walls and doors and windows and all the other things we've already talked about in Revit, each of these pieces of text have a text style associated with them. So this text, when it prints out on a piece of paper, will measure at 1/4 of an inch is equal to, or at 1/4 of an inch, excuse me. And if I use my drop-down menu, I can see that I have a 3/32 inch text available as well. So I can create new text styles here. I can edit existing text styles to look the way that I want them to look. Now, before we get into that, I want to illustrate one thing about text that is very similar to dimensions, and that is that they are tied to the scale of the view. So just like when I changed the view when I was working on dimensions, I'm going to change the scale of this view from 1/4 of an inch to 1/2. The text flexes depending on the scale that I choose, right? And it flexes because for each of these different scales, we have a different scale factor. And in order for these to print consistently 1/4 of an inch on a piece of paper when we go to print them, they have to get bigger or smaller within the view to make them look like they're going to be 1/4 of an inch when they print on a piece of paper. So text size, the height that we view flexes, but in the end, they always print the same height on a piece of paper, okay? So I'm going to say that one more time. Your text height is tied to the scale of your view, the way that it's viewed in your view. All right, so let's change some of our text. I'm going to first edit this text, and then I'm going to create a brand new text style. And just like a lot of other things in Revit, when I edit a text type, it's a type property. And that means that every other piece of text of this type that has this exact same name, 1/4 inch Arial, if I edit that text style, all of the other pieces of text that are defined by this style will be changed. So I'm going to pick my piece of text. I'm going to hit edit type. And we have some aesthetic things that we can change with our text. There are not very many things, but I could make the color different. Let's make it pink. And most importantly, just like dimensions, I can change the text size. I would say the text size and the text font are going to be the most frequently changed things. So let's make this, instead of a quarter, let's make it larger. Let's make it 1/2 inch. I could give it a width factor. I could make it narrower or wider. I'm going to hit OK. And you see the text got bigger, so now it's larger and overlaps, and it's pink. I can hit Edit Type again. Oop, forgot to select my text there. I'm going to click on my text, hit Edit Type, and I could then change this style back to something a little more reasonable in size. We'll change the text size here from 1/2 to 1/8, and I'm going to hit OK. And now it's even smaller than it was originally. Okay. So what I just did there was I edited a type. I'm going to select my text again, hit Edit Type. And because I changed this from 1/4 inch Arial to 1/8, it would probably be appropriate to rename it. So I'm going to click on Rename. We'll call it 1/8 inch Arial. And hit OK. All right. Let's create a brand new text style. So to create a brand new text style, I would pick the style that is most similar to the new text style I want to generate. You're going to click on Edit Type. And just like every other element in Revit, when you create something new, you're going to duplicate it. Let's rename it. We'll do 1/16 inch city blueprint. So I duplicated it, I renamed it, and now I need to redefine it. So my text font will be, oop, we went a little too far there. City blueprint, and the text size will be 1/16 inch. I'm going to hit OK. There's my tiny little city blueprint text. If I click on this text, which is still defined as 1/8 inch Arial, and I change it to city blueprint, it changes appropriately. Again, you're going to see this routine over and over and over again in Revit, and you're going to hear it over and over again in these lectures, but it's a really important idea that when you want to create a new text style, or not even just a text style, if you want to create a new style of something, or you want to edit something, you're going to go into the Edit Type, and if you want to edit, you just edit. And if you want to create a brand new type, you're going to duplicate, you're going to rename, redefine, and then reuse in your project. This ends text and creating a new text style.